What's up, guys? Chris with Croft CNC and CNC for Newbies here. Had a couple people reach out to me, couple YouTube people, couple Facebook people, complaining about some recent issues with Windows and UCCNC. One of them was, let's see here. Hold on. I got people commenting already. Good morning, sir. I'm not sure who you are, Facebook user, but good morning. Anyways, wanted to go on and show you guys one thing that Chris Holland ran into where he shut his system down and Windows wiped the UCCNC profile, and his software started up, but it didn't have anything in the profile folder. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Let's see here. We'll share entire screen. Share. Okay, there you go. Okay, so for me, the thing that I do is I go into my Explorer tab, I go to this PC, I go to my local disk, and this is my UCCNC folder right here. In this main directory, I personally will copy this whole folder to a thumb drive. I copy everything in this folder in one swoop. I just go up here, select all, and copy. Okay, so you can hit select all and copy it, and then save that to a thumb drive. And as soon as you go through and lose your profile or anything in your UCCNC folder, you can actually redrop all this stuff right in and get a working UCCNC profile right back where you were. Okay. Once again, it's real simple. Go here. I go to this PC. I go to local disk. I go to UCCNC. I copy all of these and then I just drop them in. Sometimes what I'll do is I will actually copy the whole folder as one, and then I'll just do a replace folder. And that's the easiest way. Whenever you have an issue with your UCCNC and Windows, just kick it back through. Francois is in here. I see he's in here. He brought up some things with the UCCNC's RS-485 adapter and Windows updates. Windows 11 is buggy with the updates in terms of interacting with the RS-485 drivers. It's something that's known. You have to kind of work through it, find drivers that work. It's it's just a real pain. That's one of the issues with these Windows-based programs is you have a setup where a a folder can be wiped out, a driver can be changed, Windows pushes through their updates. One of the things that I really want you to understand is you're buying a kit. You're you're buying uh, a project. Okay, you can't expect to buy a project car and instantly take home a Lamborghini and drive it around. It doesn't work that way. You're not paying the the price tag of the fully assembled setup that has the dedicated software. Um, it's definitely a catch 22 because you know a lot of people don't realize that I build industrial factory CNC machines by day. I program them, I install them, and everything. You're talking about $500,000 in CNC equipment that people put in to basically turnkey run. You're talking Ethernet networking, real time run systems, full closed loop software integration, node systems, the whole 9 yards, data logging, everything. You really need to make sure that you understand you're comparing apples to apples whenever you're comparing stuff. Does a Gerbil system have this problem? Typically it doesn't, because the Gerbil system is on its own microcontroller. Okay, UCCNC and Mach do not run on their own microcontroller. They run on the computer. So anytime Windows does an update, it can affect the way that those softwares and their drivers interact with Windows. Um, what I found works best for me is I actually have a method where I go in and I turn off my automatic updating. I I I went on, found how to turn off the automatic updating. Actually, Billy Brown showed me how to do it initially, um, and then after all that, I couldn't get it to work anymore, and I went on YouTube and I found out how to turn off automatic updating for Windows, and that that seems to be what works for me. Will it work for you? I don't know. I can't verify that. I can't tell you that, but it's what works for me. Okay. Um, there are ways around this. You could use a Linux CNC system. Um, you could you could use the Gerbil system. The problem with the Gerbil system is you're going to lose a lot of the functionality uh, that Mach and UCCNC provide to you. That's the hard part. The good part is CNC Commander is trying to upgrade the Gerbil system to be on par with that. Um, and going from there. So um, yeah, it's pretty easy to look at the pros and cons of all of these aspects of all of these things. Um, obviously, Gerbil being on its own microcontroller, being an Arduino, you can you can throw that part onto the microcontroller, and it's not dictated by Windows. So you really just need to open up the G code sender software. It doesn't have to load drivers and all that stuff like UCCNC does. And once again, this is a topical conversation. It's not down in the weeds. Um, there's a lot more complexities to the interactions of all of this. But UCCNC and Mach are PC based, and they're PC based uh, on a priority scaled uh, Windows system. So you don't have control over when certain software loops run. Okay, that's what a real-time operating system does for you. For me, I like in-time, real-time operating systems for Windows. It gives me a lot more flexibility, um, and I can tell Windows and programs when they're going to actually repeat a cycle and check how many times with certainty on microsecond functionality and repeatability. That's something that's nice about the real-time operating system. Regular Windows is not set up like that. So you guys that are doing a lot of this stuff need to understand there is a whole world of stuff that I dive deep into that I'm just a baby in, so you start looking at Windows operating systems, you start looking at the back end of Mach and UCCNC, you start looking at the multiple functionalities of the macros and writing macros, you start looking at the front end screen editing and stuff like that. Like these whole systems come together and can make a an interaction tailored to each of you specifically. Okay. And that's what you're buying. That's what you're experiencing. If that's not what you want, then don't buy the sub, you know, let's say $20,000 systems, and go straight up to the 50,000 and up systems that are Ethernet LANs. All the nodes are already set for you. All the functionality is already set. What you buy is what you are stuck with and what you get, and you have to go to that factory to buy any accessory parts later on down the road, and they have to come with a tech and install them and everything like that. There's plenty of videos out. I've done plenty of videos. Phil, Mark Lindsay, Bull Shanigan, Michael Meslick, Garrett Fromm, you know, geez, now I'm drawing a blank. Dave Nestor. There's tons of people out there that do videos on setting up your probe. Okay. Can it be confusing? Yes. Do we do step by step? No. We try to. I can absolutely do a step by step on setting up a probe. The problem is it's going to be for that one probe block. You'll notice in my probe setups for the Triquerta, I have calipers. I'm measuring this, I'm measuring that. I'm showing you how to go through, install the numbers, and then go from there. In the BNR probe block, I'm not changing numbers. In the automatic tool changer one, I don't have to change pretty much anything. All of these things are things that are kind of open to. I'm trying to show you where these tabs are at, how to access them, kind of what you're putting in there, how to figure out what you're putting in there. I'm not saying this is your BNR block. This is where you're going to measure from. This is where you're going to put that number in, because then it's a BNR video. It doesn't help everybody. It specifically helps BNR guys. Doing a Triquerta video, it specifically helps Triquerta guys. But if I keep it topical and I show you where I'm measuring, where I put those numbers, and why I put those numbers, now it can be Triquerta, it can be BNR, it can be something you bought off of Amazon. You know, the functionality of these light industrial and hobby CNC machines that you guys have is beyond your comprehension at times. I know, because I experience it. I amaze myself sometimes at the stuff that my machines do, and they do for me. I love them, but sometimes it can be frustrating. I understand that this is my life, so it's a little bit easier and simple for me. You guys run into situations and it can be catastrophic. You know, it's really not. It's just a matter of you're not getting the right answers that you want, and you don't want to break your system, so you're kind of stuck before you do anything. For me, I say don't be stuck. Figure it out. You know, we're here to help you. There's a lot of guys on the forums, on the Facebook groups, on YouTube. You send a message, they'll help you. You know, there's a lot of backing on this stuff. It gets really hairy at times. You know, for me, you guys all know I'm going through some medical stuff. As a matter of fact, Wednesday I'm having my pacemaker removed and replaced. I'm not always going to be here. I've got guys beating down my messages. Hey, when are you going to get back to me? As soon as I can. I'm fielding questions as much and as fast and as soon as I can. You know, I don't live on the groups. You know, as much as I would love to, I don't, and I can't. You know, likewise with other people. They can't live on there, because if they're living on the groups answering all your questions, they're not pushing these machines and making them do stuff to answer questions, to figure out how to use them. So, you know, make sure you're cutting some slack. And I know somebody's going to come in and say, well, as a company, you know, this stuff should be taken care of, and you know, this should be done, and you know, whatever. You know what? If you can do it better, do it. If you've got all the answers, by all means, do it. You know, there's people beating down the door right now telling CNC for newbies, hey, the Masso controller is the way to go. Well, Masso's been around for decades. I've had Masso controllers. I'll tell you right now, I like Masso. I like Mesa computers. I like Masso interactions. I like Centroid. I worked with Centroid. Okay, I know the guys over at Centroid. I lived in State College, right up the road from them. You know, you're not going to tell me anything about Centroid Acorn that I couldn't actually go to the guys that wrote the code and actually soldered the boards and actually put the stuff in their industrial CNCs. You're not going to tell me anything that they couldn't tell me. All right. So when you're looking at this stuff, understand I've been around the block. I've played with all this stuff. If you want a Masso controller, get a Masso controller. as CNC for newbies, I feel that this setup is the most flexible setup, that allows as many customers to interact with their machine the way that they want, not the way that we dictate. That to me, that's what makes this great, is you're not dictated what your machine is going to do and how it's going to operate. We give you a base performance setup, and then you sit there and you do trial runs, you do calibrations, you do tramming. The better you put your machine together, the better you calibrate it, the better you tram it, the faster speeds you're going to get, the better cuts you're going to get. I can't do that stuff unless I'm right there at that machine, because every single machine is different and it's put together different. I put my machines together with lasers, with machinist levels. My Starrett level was $500 for a bubble level. You're not going to do that. You're going to use probably regular bubble levels. It's got 2 gradient lines and you line them up. Okay, good. Some people might go as far as a digital level, stuff like that. That's great. But there are tolerance built into everything. The finer you get those tolerances, the tighter you make stuff. When you put a machine together, use a torque wrench. Don't use an impact gun. Don't use a regular Allen key set. Use a torque wrench set. Set your torque. You can look it up online. Hey, this M4 bolt, what's a torque spec for an M4 bolt? It'll give you a torque spec. Dial it in. Click, click. Okay, it's tight. Blue Loctite on stuff. Just different things like that will increase the chances of you getting a nice, solid, fast-moving machine that's going to last you ages. I do maintenance on my machines, but for the most part, they don't give me any issues. I've changed my controllers a couple times because I'm building stuff. So that's all there is to it. You have to take charge and educate yourself. And I understand some guys are like, well, I run a business with this. And okay, you run a business with this. If you run a business with this, then you need to teach yourself your machine and increase your knowledge base. You need to have parts on the shelf. Milo makes the lithium box batteries for audio systems. He was like, hey, Chris, I had a bearing. It just destroyed on me. What part size is it so I can order 10 of them and have them on the shelf? And, what parts should I have on the shelf? And we had a whole discussion about have these parts on hand. That way, when you're getting something done for a customer and it's Saturday night and the customer's coming to pick it up Monday morning, you're not sitting there going, oh, I couldn't get it done because the motor went bad or a driver failed or anything like that. Don't go at it with, oh, I bought the machine and that's what it is. No, you always have parts. I mean, stuff is going to go bad. You could have gotten a control board that was Friday at 3:00 and they close up at 5:00. The guy doesn't want to be there. He wants to go home. Is it right? No, but it's human nature. It happens. It is what it is. So as you guys start looking at these machines, start understanding whether it's an X-Carve, a CNC for newbies, a Millwright, uh, uh, Onefinity, Bob CNC, uh, uh, um, uh, uh, Worker Bee, whatever those hobby machines are, you know, love them and they will produce for you. Will some machines operate faster than others? Absolutely. I'm sitting here, I'll put it out there. I was sent a video about a YouTube person saying, "Hey, this machine is rapiding at this pace, and I've never seen anything. This is the end all be all of CNC machines. You'll never get a CNC machine better." It was rapiding at 1250. It did not impress me. Why? I rapid my machine at 2000 RPM or 2000 inches a minute. That's rapiding my machine. I've got plenty of room. I can turn it up. I do that because I save on the bearings, because the bearings aren't really rated for that. The machine wasn't actually built for that. I know the limitations of what the machine was built for. I abuse it already. But stuff like that doesn't impress me. You want impressive? I'll post a picture of one of our industrial machines. You're talking a 5x10 table with full vacuum system, pop-up pins. It has a 14 horsepower spindle. It has the one I just did had 9 horsepower drive motors. It has full AC servo setups. We're wrapping it around at 5,000 inches a minute, like scary fast. And to put the gantry on, you need a 10,000 pound forklift. It has integrated vac push. It has suction cups to actually pick the panels of wood off of the scissor lift and drag it onto the CNC for you. That's impressive. So don't get caught up in, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And, when the 4x8 machine from CNC for Newbies came out, I posted it. You won't believe what this machine can do. Because I honestly, up to that point, I couldn't believe that machine was capable of it. Was it a marketing ploy? No, I was genuinely impressed with that machine. Just like the other people are probably genuinely impressed with their machine. But you as a consumer cannot fall into, oh, they said this, so this has to be it. I say a lot of shit on here. Doesn't mean it's the end all be all. I always tell you guys, go do your research. Let's talk about it. I want to be better. I want to know more. You'll notice I say we have a closed loop system for CNC for Newbies. Brandon Atwell and I were talking in private message. He's over on the UCCNC users group. And he's like, oh, how are you doing that? And we got to talking, and we established that, oh yeah, you got a closed loop to the driver, not a fully integrated closed loop. And I was like, yeah. So is it a closed loop system? Yes. But I always tell you guys, it's closed loop to the driver. Why? Because it's not a fully integrated software closed loop. Okay, where the hardware and the software all know what everything's doing all at once. in the big machines, those they are a fully integrated software and hardware implemented closed loop with servo encoder feedback. It actually has dual encoders, as I've talked about, where it has a linear encoder on the rail, and then it has a motor encoder on the motor shaft, to give finite, so that that the motor is spinning as it should, but it's also checking that it's measuring out as it should. So that's some things that you'll see every once in a while. I bring stuff from the industrial side right into the hobby side. Um, we've got a couple projects we're working on now. You guys have seen my drill head project that goes on with the spindle. We'll be implementing that, and I have macros to actually have multiple drill heads so that I can do closet production on a hobby CNC. Why? Because I want to teach myself how to implement it. That's what this is about. If you're trying to make a business out of this, pick the right machine. If you don't have the budget, it's real simple. I tell people that take my class, do you have more time or more money? If you have more money, buy the proper stuff. If you don't, you have more time, teach yourself how to do what the industrials do. That simple. Nickel and dime it here, buy it all up front here. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It's all going to come together at some point. But everything comes back around to a lot of this stuff is because of the integration solutions that people have as companies. UCCNC has an integration solution that is PC based. Masso and Gerbil, they use offloaded microcontrollers, typically Arduino chips or the SMT32 chips. There's nothing wrong with them. The biggest problem that I have with the Gerbil systems is the implementation of macros. If you could take the functionality of UCCNC with its macro implementation and everything and put it on an Arduino, you would basically have a Masso. Okay. The hard part about it is the code integration for somebody else to write code for it. It gets a little difficult. You have to know computer programming and pretty in depth to do that. So, it's not an easy setup, where UCCNC is pretty easy with their examples. Gerbil, it's pretty easy to rewrite the firmware, So take it for what it's worth. I have to laugh. Two of my first big clients, I'm actually drinking my morning coffee, and I used to do a morning show called Coffee and Cuts with Croft CNC. And two of my first big clients at Croft CNC was Death Wish Coffee and Black Rifle Coffee. So we got our Black Rifle coffee cups, and in it I've got Death Wish coffee because I don't have Black Rifle coffee right now, and my Death Wish coffee cups are dirty. But that was a little side note. But yeah, that's my tangent for today. I showed you guys how to get your folder. Whenever you're doing stuff, save all of your post processors, save all of your user licenses. For me, I try to save the executable files. Like I have an executable file for UCCNC 1.2113 and 1.2115. I have a list of my UC products. I keep a list of the licenses in a notepad or an Excel sheet, and possibly what machine they're on or what controller they're with or whatever. My post processors, I have saved profiles. I have a copy of my initial profile saved, and then I have a copy of my UCCNC folder saved. So for example, at this point, if anybody wanted my automatic tool changer setup, if they had everything set up exactly how I have it set up, I could drop my folder right onto their desktop. They move it in, do a rewrite, and that moves all of my files into their UCCNC folder. You would have all the functionality that I have. It's that simple, like point, click, done. As far as the spindle integration with the RS-485, I know Francois likes pushing the rollback to Windows 10. That's one way to do it. Finding the right driver for Windows 11 is the other way. Doing all of your updates and then doing a restart. You know, like I posted, it took me like 20 times to try and replicate the problem because I have a stable system, and some people's systems just aren't stable. You know, I have my automatic updating turned off, so I don't worry about that. So my system's pretty stable, and once I got one thing working, I got it working. Make sure that if you have a CH341 RS-485 converter, that you're using the CH drivers. If you're using an FTDI chip RS-485 converter, make sure that you have the FTDI drivers. That's it for today. Peace, guys.